So next up, we will hear from our second keynote speaker, Harrison Tang, CEO and co-founder of Spokeo. Our moderator, Kwan, who is the forum chair of this year's summit and key member of the board of directors, will introduce Harrison and the keynote topic. Please welcome Chi to the stage.
It's good. Okay. It's my great honor to introduce our next keynote speaker, Harrison Tang, CEO and co-founder of Spokeo. Harrison combined his extensive knowledge in the electrical engineering economics from Stanford University with a visionary approach to data technology. His expertise in identity resolution and data integration position him as a leading expert in adapting collaboration practice to the challenges of the modern content-avoidant landscape. Tang's innovation strategy has made him a sought-after voice in the field of collaboration and data utilization. Harrison has been a speaker at CES, has been cited in major publications such as CNN.com and USA Today. In his current role as a co-chair of the W3C Credentials Community Group, he actively contributes to the advancement and standardization of digital credentials. In addition, Harrison assumed the position of the chairman at the Monty J. Science and Technology Association, Southern California in 2022. In his role, he facilitated networking opportunity among Taiwanese American professionals. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcome our next keynote speaker, Harrison Tang.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Chi. And thanks, Sue, for leading a great exercise so you guys won't fall asleep in my talk. And of course, I want to thank Katie for inviting me. When she asked me to talk about entrepreneurship, growth, and AI, I was like, is that 3 talks? But then I realized her genius and the commonality between these 3 concepts. At the end of the day, growth is about overcoming challenges, and challenge is the latest opportunity to grow. Face a lot of business in AI and all of our careers today. So today, I'm just going to quickly go through my journey as an entrepreneur, my growth, personal growth, and I'm going to talk about a little bit about the AI revolution that we have seen, especially since November 2022. And then lastly, I want to end with some of the problems that the AIs have posed, and hopefully that inspires some of the new entrepreneurs to tackle these new challenges. So first of all, just a quick summary about me. So I'm the CEO and co-founder of Spokeo. We are one of the biggest people intelligence, people search engine. We organize about 100 billion records into about 600 million person entities to help about 15 million users a month to search, connect, verify, and know who they're dealing with. I'm also the co-chair of W3C CCG. We are one of the top self-sovereign identity communities that helps set standards such as verifiable credentials, decentralized identities, and Web3 ID. And last but not least, my toughest job is I'm the dad of 4 boys. Actually, they're all here. I can't see them, but if you hear a baby that just start yelling, that's one of the boys. It's the toughest job because most people listen or pretend to listen to me, and they don't even pretend. All right, so just quickly want to go through my entrepreneurship journey thus far, the past lessons and journey. So first of all, I think a lot of you guys are like me. We're an immigrant, first generation immigrant, moved to the US at the age of 13. To be very frank, this is the toughest challenge in my life. You know, getting to Stanford, starting a company, getting sued, winning a Supreme Court case, blah, 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 blah. That's nothing compared to moving to US without knowing any English. At the age of 13, you know, I was at an age where I didn't want to just start watching Barney Dinosaur. I thought that at that time, I thought it kind of insults my intelligence. So I chose to copy dictionaries and study Jane Austen. And I think some of you guys will ask, why Jane Austen? Because she likes to use SAT-2 vocabularies. Actually, my son, the 10-year-old, asked me, he's like, hey, what's the purpose of synonyms? because Jane Austen loves to use different words to describe the same goddamn thing. And he hates it, right? Like, he's like, why do we have to remember all these synonyms? Well, guess what? It is thanks to Jane Austen. And then obviously the large language model, the advent of a large language model helped me more deeply appreciate the depth of our human language. Now, got into Stanford, studied quite a bit, and then I majored in economics and electrical engineering, and also got a master in electrical engineering. I was originally an economics major, doing like game theory, Nash equilibriums, and things like that. I saw something called hologram, so I thought, hey, this is quite interesting. But to be very frank, the biggest lesson I learned from Stanford is actually not Fourier optics or Nash equilibriums and all that stuff. The biggest lesson is a professor asked me about the speed of electron in the material. I forgot now what that material is. I was trying to find the answer from books, internet. I couldn't find it. And the professor just would not give me the answer. He would only give me hints. He would guide me to arrive at the answer, but he would not give me the answer. So one of the things I've learned is the importance of how you solve problems. It's not what you know. To be very frank, I was just recently talking to our director of talent acquisition. We need to change up our recruiting questions, because what you know, you can just ask ChatGPT. And human brain is not going to outlast machines in terms of storage, right? So obviously, in terms of knowledge, that's not what's important. It's how you solve problems. And that's my biggest lesson at Stanford. And then one of my optics professors told me that his biggest life lesson is to not fight against silicon. So at first I was like, why don't you tell me earlier? And then I realized, damn it, I either have to stay at Stanford or academia for a long, long time, or I can do something else. And I decided to do something else. So I started Spokeo with my college roommates as a social network aggregator back in 2006. So why my roommates? Well, because only they want to join, right? So why? You're like, hey, who are your investors? My parents. Why my parents? Because no one wants to fund it. So it's quite simple. Just want to try something new. Want to give ourselves. I actually have to convince my different roommates from different years to join me. And then I just told them, hey, can we just give ourselves like 3 to 4 years? So one of the things that I've learned is that a lot of people ask, like, how do you know something is working and how do you know something is not working? The answer is time, the dimension of time. Obviously, persistence and stubbornness is only very fine line. There's a fine line difference between them. And that answer is time. And generally speaking, from experience, empirically, that time dimension is about 4 years, 3 to 4 years. And I guess that's why like colleges are usually 4 years, right? So started that and tried to, at first, got to newspapers and things like that. Obviously, that's kind of cool. I thought we made it. But then traffic is just the first step, right? After you get traffic, how do you actually keep the lights on? How do you monetize that traffic? That's pretty tough. So, I remember we almost ran out of funding. I had to go back to my dad. I was like, oh, sorry. I'm a bad son. Lose all your money. And he said, it's okay, son, because when I gave it to you, I already written it off. So that's how much confidence he has in me. But the most important thing is, the second thing he said, son, success is actually not about whether you got to Stanford, Ivy League, or how high your IQ is. It's just how long can you outlast the competition, whether you can get to the finish line. And we actually did. We took about 3-4 pivots before finding the product market fit. Now, technology always changes. So people always want to do something perfect that lasts forever. But the truth is, every tech, about 8 to 10 years, it changes. So I'll give a quick example here. We started with a server in the bathroom, right? Why is it in the bathroom? Because it's goddamn loud, so it's just locked it in the bathroom. And then you move it to the co-location centers, right? So it's kind of like a rent. You rent an apartment, you rent a room for your servers, and obviously you have to move to the cloud. And when you move to the cloud, guess what happened? We have to throw millions and millions of servers away. And that's just how the tech works. Same thing with, we started out as a Ruby on Rails 0.7. Like, people don't use Ruby on Rails now, right? So things always change, and you have to change with it. So, I think most of you guys probably know who these three people are. Obviously, most of you don't know who the first person is. That's me. But guess what is the commonality? What is the commonality? Oh, we came back, guys, in the room. So it's not that we're all handsome. That's not it. It's not like we're rich, because I'm not rich. But rather, we all got fired. So one guy took about 12 years to come back. One guy took 2 weeks. I took like 24 hours. So this kind of thing happens. But the jokes aside, the biggest thing is, how do you actually rebuild the trust when that happens? And one of the things I've learned is that trust is defined as dependence on each other to achieve a win-win situation. And that's a reverse game theory definition. And if you actually look at game theory is a theory that models social interactions. There are studies around this, and there is a winning formula to achieve a win-win situation. And by the way, life is a win-win, not a zero-sum game. And these are the lessons, right? You want to be nice, right? You don't want to be the first one to attack someone. You don't want to be too nice. If someone attacks you, you have to reciprocate. You got to be forgiving, and you got to be clear. And these are the lessons I've learned in how do you actually build trust. And you have to take time. Because one of the things in game theory is that if you only have one game, you always get to the lose-lose situation. The only way to win the game is that you have multiple games. I'll kind of go quick. So in 2016, we moved from web to data companies. One of the things I learned is that web technologies and culture is very, very different. There's a lot of difference. By the way, this is probably a $30 million lesson. Web culture is about outcomes, quickly iterating on the end results. And data is the opposite, because at the end of the day, garbage in and garbage out. And you have to respect different technology and different perspectives. Because at the end of the day, there's no perfect tech. There's only the right solution for the right job in the right context. And lastly, self-sovereign identity became the culture in W3CCCG. It's about leveraging asymmetric cryptography, public key cryptography, to achieve what's called transitive trust, to actually achieve the self-sovereignty of people's digital identities. Got to learn all these things from scratch. So it's about constant learning, constant failures, and constant lessons. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the AI revolution. This is definitely a once-in-a-decade change, like the internet and the mobile phone. So obviously, every 3 years, we hear a hype, right? There was a hype about bot back in 2015, 2016. There's a huge hype about cryptos around 2021, but this is the real one. So there's multiple kinds of machine learning. And by the way, I don't like to use the word AI, because AI is a very, very nebulous term. So machine learning, right? There's multiple types. Supervised, unsupervised reinforcement, right? Two of them is more about frequentist statistics approach. One of them is about stateful, more like Bayesian approach. Most of the models that we see today is actually supervised. And supervised learning is about when you have label outputs. So essentially, you can think of it as asking the machines to map known inputs to outputs. And once you have those mappings, and by the way, in math, that's called functions. One of the problems I have with how we learn math is that people thought functions is y equal ax plus b, but that's just one kind of functions. Functions is actually about mappings. So supervised learning is about finding those functions, finding those mappings, so that when you have new inputs coming in, you can spit out new outputs. It's actually have been used for a long time, such as the recommendation engines, newsfeed, image and facial recognitions, fraud detection, credit score, your home price, right? It's called automated evaluation models and so on and so on. It actually has been used for a long, long time. But the difference is not just the advent of large data that makes the model accuracy a lot more accurate, almost magical, but even more importantly, it's about the number of features and dimensionalities. And one of the best examples of such is large language models, right? Because AI has been around for a long time, but why do people start talking about it now? It's obviously the advent of ChatGPT that launched in November 2022 that for the very first time has passed the Turing test. So what is a Turing test? Turing test is a blindfolded test proposed by Alan Turing back in 1950s, where if you cannot discern the output between a human output and the machine output, you can say that machine has passed the Turing test. And I think large language models has successfully done that. Turing test historically is what people define as intelligence. And for the very first time, we have to redefine what intelligence is because large language models has passed that. And the magic of the large language models is actually the fact that you can encode, these slides, you can actually encode words into vectors or what's called embeddings. And these embeddings, these numbers, you can actually operate mathematical operations on it. So for example, if you have an embedding for queen, if you do it correctly, if you have an embedding for queen or for woman, then you can do queen minus woman plus man equal king. That you will get the embedding for king, and then you can push it back to king. So the coolest thing about this is actually the high dimensionalities of our human language. One of the things I never really truly appreciate is the difficulties of our language, right? The difficulty and the depth of our human language, how it actually is the artifact of our human intelligence. And this actually is the moment that teaches me about a new appreciation for our human language. So once you do that, that's the embeddings. And then you have to capture context, right? Because, for example, you can say, hey, the bank is at the river bank. Well, that bank means different things, right? If you say the bank is at the river bank, it is full of money. Obviously, that it represents the first bank, right? The financial institutions. So you have to do all these what's called attention mechanisms to capture the context. We're talking about thousands and tens of thousands, right, of numbers to represent a word. And when you actually start trying to capture all these contexts, we're talking about billions and billions of parameters, billions and billions of features, variables, attributes to describe the human language. And you do all of these, you do human feedbacks, right? At the end of the day, you still want to tune the model to human feedback and human objectives. Then you get this magical thing, the large language models. And the coolest thing about these large language models is that it can act as a foundational model for different things. It's one model that can do many different things. So previously, when we build a model, when we want to solve a sentiment analysis, we want to build a model for it. When we want to do what's called name entity recognition, so you have text, you want to recognize Taipei, you have to build a model for it. Now you can have one model that solves all these different things. And then obviously, there's more than just large language models for generative AI. There's different modalities, whether it's the image, audio, code. I mean, most recently, OpenAI's Sora. I mean, that looks quite amazing, right? So there's a lot of things coming. So this is what we have been witnessing in the last 2 years. it is a true revolution. It does remind me of the mobile revolution back in 2009 and the internet back in early 2000s. So what are the new challenges, opportunities that's posed by this new revolution? So I'm going to share with three challenges, and opportunities that some of you smart guys there can help solve. One of them is fraud. So misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation obviously becoming more and more serious. And guess what? Generative AI makes that even easier to do, right? It just takes one or a couple clicks to create a disinformation. So how do you solve this problem? Well, so first of all, you can use AI to detect AI. So that's detection, but that's not enough. That's not enough. In fact, most of the detection models is not as good as the generated ones. So there's other ways to do it, right? So such as using digital signatures, leveraging cryptography, right? To create a watermark, to create a signature that ensures no forgery and tampering of the content, right? Provenance is about tracking and knowing the 6 W's, who, what, where, when, how, and why of the content. Governance, what is trust, who to trust, what technology to trust, and last but not least, education. Every technology has their strengths and weaknesses. The reason why people fear it is because they don't know how it works. So once we do a better job at educating users about its strengths, weaknesses, I think we can help people alleviate those kind of fears. The next one is divisions. This one is dear to my heart because I started Spokeo in the Web 2 era, right, where social network is all the rage. The recommendation engines have seriously divided our society into our echo chambers. People only see what they want to see. Okay. One of the things we have to realize is that recommendation engines and personalization systems is a kind of information filtering system. Note, it's filtering, right? It actually blows up all the different possibilities into a Cartesian space, and it filters down the content to the content that they think, in this case, the success objective is engagement. They think you want to see. So guess what? If you're a Republican, you'll see more Republican things. If you're a Democrat, you'll see more Democrat things. So people live in their echo chambers. They believe in different realities. In physics, there's only one reality. That reality is fundamentally multidimensional. And all of us can only see a perspective, a facet. So how do we do a better job? Because there's only one reality and one truth. How do we actually do a better job to align people, right? To agree and see other people's perspectives? That's a very, very tough problem. And these are a couple solutions that I propose that can actually help solve it. And last but not least, centralization. Data feedback loop reinforces itself. The reason why Google is so dominant is not because their search technology and indexing is leaks beyond the competition. Now we know why, because the Google SEO leak. It's because about a third of their ranking algorithms leverages user engagement data. So when you have more users using your search engines, well, guess what? Your search engines will do better. So all of us are helping them refine that algorithm. So the data marketplace and data ecosystem is inherently self-reinforcing and creates monopolies. So how do we actually solve these problems? So I talk about the division, the centralization, obviously of fraud. That will get accelerated by the new generative AI technologies. So the question is, what are we going to do about it? But at the end of the day, as I share with you the story of my entrepreneurship and personal growth in the last 15, 17 years, one of the things I learned, I can't believe I'm starting to say this, it makes me feel old. One of the things I learned is that there will always be new challenges. AI is not the last one. There's always going to be a new one. And the question is not whether you're going to solve this problem. The question is really, are you ready? Are you ready to see every challenge as a new opportunity to grow? Because at the end of the day, like I mentioned, and like I defined growth in the beginning of this talk, it's about the process of overcoming challenges. It's about getting those badges in solving problems. So if you have any questions, I'm going to have a deeper talk on the AI application forum later. And then if you have any questions, you can find me. I can get a little bit deeper. And of course, you can just connect me on LinkedIn or just follow me on different social media. My username is Tang Talks because I talk a lot. So thank you.